Yes, you're welcome to another class. And today we are going to look at fractions. Yes, I told you we'll be treating some basic mathematics. Yes, some basic things you need to know in mathematics because this is a beginner's class and is a course for beginners, especially those that are having issues with mathematics. So some basic, elementary topics in mathematics is what I'm addressing. And one of them is fraction. Yes, fraction. So straight up, I'll be going straight up to the fraction, slide. Yes, let me take you to the fraction slide as quick as possible, Okay, so just bear with me. Let's go straight up to the fraction slide. Sorry, we took some time trying to get the slide. Voila, we're back. We're on it right now. The slide is opening up. Just be patient with us as we do this on this particular topic. Yes, patience pays. Yes, if you're patient, then you you will gain a lot. Yes, patience is a particular virtue that is very, very important. So voila, that's it. So we have our slide on fraction, and trust me, it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be what? The waiting. Yes, I know some of you guys will be saying we've been waiting and all that, but it's worth waiting. Yeah, so fraction, arithmetic, under arithmetic, fractions. So this is basic mathematics. This is one of the building blocks. This is one of the basic, pillars of mathematics. If you know your fraction very well, you'll do well in other topics. Yes. So let's go on. So arithmetic in bracket, fractions. Let's move to the next slide. Okay, so we're going to add fractions, we're going to subtract fractions, we're going to multiply fractions, and we are going to divide fractions. So that's what we're going to do. These are the 4 key things we're going to do in this particular lesson. Yes, in this particular class. 4 key things: addition of fraction, subtraction of fraction, multiplication of fraction, and division of fraction. So let's look at it quickly. Without further ado, let's move to the next slide. Okay, so addition of fraction, what's the principle? Now, first of all, fraction is a part of a whole. A fraction is a part of the whole. Let me just put it that way, because you need to understand it in that light. When you take a complete material, a complete object, whatsoever it is, a part of it is a fraction. So, and a fraction has a numerator part and a denominator part. Yes. So basically, whenever you see a numerator that's a value up and a value down, that's a fraction. So I'm going to show you how to add 2 fractions. Now, using this particular principle you're seeing on the board. So what's the principle like? The principle is telling us to multiply. You can see the arrows. Use the denominator of the second fraction and multiply the numerator of the first fraction. Use the denominator of the first fraction and multiply the numerator of the second fraction. Don't forget, the value up is numerator and the value down is denominator. Okay, so let's do that. So A times D, AD, B times C, BC, and B times D, BD. Let's move to the next slide. Now we are evaluating 4/5 plus 2/7. So how do we solve this problem? 4/5 plus 2/7 Just do the cross multiplication. 4 times 7, you get, yes, 4 times 7, you get 28, plus 5 times 2, you get 10, 28 plus 10, 38, then you get 5 times 7, 35. So that's why the answer is 38 over 35. I want to believe some of you are already understanding how to solve or add two fractions. Just looking at this alone. There are other ways of doing it, but this is just one of the ways that you can easily solve or add two fractions. So let's move to the next slide. Now, in the next slide, homework, class activity, and I will not dwell much on that because you can pick up any elementary mathematics textbook, do activities on fractional addition, and also give yourself an assignment or an homework. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Subtraction of fraction, a over b minus c over d. You cross multiply them, but make sure you cross multiply to the left. Look at the arrow first before you multiply to the right. For subtraction, this principle is very important. For subtraction, moving to the left first is very important. If you don't move to the left first, you will get a wrong value. Yes, you get a wrong value. So you multiply to the left first before you multiply to the right. So I've done that. So AD minus BC over, then you multiply two denominators, you get BD. So that's the value. So let's move to the next. Now we have a problem before us, which is 4 over 7 minus 2 over 5. You cross multiply, you get 20. You cross multiply 7 times 2, you get 14. Then over 7 times 5, you get 35. So 14 minus 20 minus 14 gives you 6 over 35. So that's the answer. So it's as easy as that. Yes. So know your arithmetic, know your basic operations. When you come to fractions, just apply the knowledge you've already gotten in your basic operations and you're good to go. So make sure you look for that video I did on decimal fractions. It will also help you when it comes to basic operations and all that. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. So the same thing, class activity, homework. Go to your textbook, any elementary textbook, do a class activity, do a homework, an assignment on fraction subtraction. Moving on, fraction multiplication. Sorry, not algebra. That's an error. It's not algebra, it's fraction multiplication. So A times D, now A over B times C over D. Now, the principle you're supposed to apply is multiply all the numerators and also multiply all the denominators. So when you're multiplying two fractions, you don't cross multiply. So take note of that. So there is no cross multiplication here. So just multiply all the numerators by multiplying the numbers up and also multiply the numbers down. So when you're done with that, you get AC over BD. Yes, AC over BD. That's A times C AC, B times D BD. And you're good. We are done. So let's look at an example, a quick example on fraction multiplication. So 4 over 15 times 2 over 3, multiply all the numerators, you get 4 times 2, multiply all the denominators, you get 15 times 3, and that's 8 times 4, 8 divided by 45. So let's move on to the next slide. Now, in the next slide, yes, class activity, homework, do what I've been telling you on class activity and homework. Let's move to the next slide. Now, fraction division. So A over B, that's the principle, under principle, A over B divided by C over D. So there's a principle to obey when it comes to dividing fractions. You invert the second fraction, the fraction on the right, you invert it. You do the reciprocal of it. That means you take the denominator up and bring down the numerator. So I took the D up and brought down the C, and I got D over C. Now you can now do the same thing you did when you were multiplying fractions. Now, because after inverting the second fraction, there's a principle you must obey. You must change the denomination sign to multiplication sign. You can do that successfully. You can now multiply all the numerators and multiply all the denominators. You have AD over BC. That's A times D, AD, and B times C, BC. Okay, moving on to the next slide, which is class activity, good, and homework. Now, the last but not the least, this is actually an example before the class activity and homework. So an example on fraction division, an example on fraction division. So let's look at it. 14 over 15 divided by 2 over 5 is equal to 4 over 15 divided by 2 over 5. So 4 over 15, you change the division sign to multiplication sign, gives you times. Then you invert the second fraction, which is 2 over 5, make it, take the denominator up and bring down the numerator. You have 5 over 2. You can start, crushing it to the lowest term. 5 divides itself. 1 divides 15, 3. So this is how we do it when we divide fractions. You either crush to the lowest term, or you just multiply the numerators and the denominators, and you start crushing them to the lowest term. Make sure you do that. 5 divides itself. The numerator, we always divide the denominator. Don't forget, when it comes to multiplication, you multiply only numerators multiply themselves. Denominator also multiplies themselves. But when it comes to division, what is up can divide what is down. Take note of that, please. Don't forget it. So 5 divides itself 1, 5 divides 15, 3. 2 divides itself 1, divides 4 2 times. 2 times 1, 2. And 3 times 1, 3. So 2 over 3 is the answer. And that's the end of this particular class on fraction. So make sure you look forward to other classes, other topics on this particular platform. Thank you so much, and see you on the next.